wanted to buy a handgun. I just don't really know the first thing about them.
Didn't we just have this conversation?
Welcome to Decoding TV's coverage of Dark Matter Season 1, Episode 7. We're rewatching every episode of Dark Matter Season 1 in the lead up to Dark Matter Season 2. By the way, side note, Blake Crouch, who wrote Dark Matter Season 1, is showrunner of the show. He is now like posting on threads, posting like Dark Matter related stuff on threads. So if you like in the lead up for publicity. So just want to throw a shout out to that if you want to follow and like get psyched up. Patrick, you're staying away until we get to the season, of course.
I've thankfully there was a brief drop of season 2's trailer alongside Comic-Con that I was able to avoid. I'm hoping to continue avoiding, even though like I'm just worried. I'm worried, but I'm holding strong and I have not been spoiled, which is why we'll get into it. The end of this episode had me hooting and hollering and whipping a chair across the room.
Yeah, I mean, let's just talk about overall thoughts of this episode. I mean, this episode is awesome, in my opinion. Like, this episode has one of the great ending moments of any episode of a TV show ever, I would say. Like, just an amazing ending to an episode of television. I think the first half of the episode was, like, okay. It wasn't, like, bad or anything. It was, like, pretty good. Decent. But then the final half of the episode is, like, wow. Like, what an amazing thing to send the audience out on. Patrick, any overall thoughts on season 1, episode 7?
Well, you know, as I think I mentioned when we talked about the previous episode, it, you know, knowing that there's a season 2, which you wouldn't have known while watching season 1, I now feel like I was starting to see breadcrumbs of how would this show go beyond one season and kind of close the loop on this one story. And it feels a little bit like the first half of this episode. It's too long. It spends a little too much time on their goodbye, but it feels like it's saying almost goodbye to season 1. Like the emotional motivating part of season 1. This is us putting, even though there are obviously with the ampules, there's an opportunity for that character to somehow return. Like and who knows? I don't know if that happens in this season or if it would happen in a future season, but it's left open. But it does feel like we're saying goodbye and like. We're going to close the book on that part of this show.
On the Amanda part of the show, to be clear.
Yeah, as we head towards, kind of wrapping up season 1 and introducing some new ideas. And so that mostly worked for me. I think the show spent the right amount of time to make us care about them having a real goodbye in the show and to like spend real time and care with that. And I like that the show, again, it's a high concept sci-fi show with a ton of ideas. The best versions of those shows spend arguably too much time with their characters. And so I'd rather Dark Matter spend too much time with its characters and caring about their journeys than immediately being like, and what are the implications of this? Because the best way that the best versions of these shows are the ones that keep you invested in those character arcs, almost as a way of distracting you from like, and then what about this? Because when the show pulls the rabbit out of its hat with the existence of, I don't even know how to, are we calling it Jason 3? I don't know how we're going to, it's like Jason 1B. I don't know how we're going to quantify
right,
this.
We can
have to work through this while we talk about it
later. But yeah.
And you may, as a result of having seen the first season, have a better sense of how we would qualify that than I currently would. But I love the slow play on, because the reveal at the end makes all the sense in the world given the track that the show has laid up to this moment. And it's one of those like crosses your mind while you're watching the show, but it just slow plays it. And it's the benefit of being a television. Like this is the advantage of being episodic, long form storytelling is you can almost distract the audience from the implications of the world because you're like the show both cycles very fast through ideas and very slowly. Like it's doing both of those at the same time, and it allows for. This is not a new sci-fi concept. Like this isn't new. I've seen this a billion times. The reason it hits like a brick is because of how long it's taken us to get there. How it feels like we're close to the goal, and then all of a sudden we feel further than ever because of this. And I watched this episode immediately after we recorded last week, which I don't know if that's a good thing, because then it just means I'm sitting on the episode for a week. And maybe I should be watching it right before that we record this, because it's torture, because I'm forcing myself to not watch ahead. But yes, I feel like this is one of those moments that you almost want to spoil for somebody who hasn't watched the show, just to like try and help convince them why they should.
All right, let's talk about what actually happens in the episode. First, I need to read this very upsetting, disturbing comment from Aaron over at decodingtv.com. Become a paid subscriber to support the show. Dave, it's very important that you listen to me. The Patrick you recorded this episode with is not the Patrick from this universe, because in this universe, the main indie theater in Chicago is called the Music Box Theater. This Patrick has slipped up and called it the Magic Box Theater. I can only assume this means he's been replaced by a Patrick from a universe where it is called the Magic Box Theater. Tread carefully and find out where the real Patrick is. By the way, loving the Dark Matter recaps, I quote.
That's very funny. That is true. Magic Box is actually the magician's place in Los Angeles, right? There's a Magic Box.
I cannot confirm or deny that.
There is. I looked it up. There's a place called Magic Box that I've been to when I was in LA once. But yes, Music Box Theater is correct. The one I was thinking of.
But that's a wonderful comment from Aaron, especially because part of the sort of plot of Dark Matter is he goes into all these Chicagos that are slightly different than his, right? And so that's how he knows he's in a different universe. In the book, they describe this the concept of the uncanny valley, like, and how upsetting it is to see something that's so close to what you expect it to be, but not quite. And the Jason in the book basically describes how he would have much rather he goes to Chicago and it's like a bombed out wasteland with holes in the ground everywhere, than like everything is perfect except it's not, the vintage tap. It's some other slightly different. And then that's like way more upsetting than if it's just like he had no hope of finding it, right?
But that's also just, that's just memory, right? Like you sufficient distance from a point in your life, your brain remembers most of it, but those are the little details that get like flipped around or turned, like where I mix up Music Box and Magic Box. Like, I haven't lived in Chicago in 12 years. So it's like, it's very easy to slip on things like that in a way that I imagine even in a show like Dark Matter, like how long do we think he's been? Like a month? How long do we think it's been?
It has been about a month. And that's one of the other things I really like about the show is you really feel like he's been traveling for many, many months, right? In the show and going through all these different realities. But in reality, it's only been like about a month of time. Okay. And in the book, they describe the same phenomenon. He says, it feels like he's been traveling through Chicago's for a lifetime. Yeah. But it's only been a month of time or so. Anyway, Daniela becomes, I'm reading here from the Wikipedia plot summary, Daniela becomes suspicious of Jason number 2. A detective visits the Destin household to inquire about Ryan, who is reported missing by his girlfriend. Ryan was last seen with Jason 2 before his disappearance. Daniela confronts Jason 2 about the drug, and to appease her, he admits the truth about its basic purpose, but he does not mention Ryan, Jason number 1, or the box, or his travel to alternate realities. He then reopens the box and uses it to replace Ryan with Ryan from a different world. End quote. I mean,
Jesus Christ.
First of all, when it cuts to he's talking with Ryan from a different world, I originally didn't know for sure that was Jason 2 that was talking to him. I thought, hey, maybe this is Jason 1 visiting a different world and he just decided to hang out with a Ryan from that world. But instead, it was Jason 2 and he was sourcing a new Ryan to throw into the Ryan from his world. And it's because it's going so well for Jason 2. Right, like Jason 2 integrating into Jason 1's life is going so well. He's like, I want to give this gift to another person from a different reality. So it's like, let's just throw Ryan 2 into Ryan 1's life and nothing will go wrong. Like there can be no complications with that. I did think it was a great sequence of him like pulling him back and shaving his head and, getting Ryan 2 all ready to go. But it's clearly, like, in my opinion, it's a ticking time bomb. Like really, really bad things will happen as a result of that. Just like, as we've already seen, you can't just replace somebody. You can't just move someone from one reality to another with no problems. Patrick Klepek, any reaction to any of this?
Yes, like this. The moment he goes to kidnap this poor other Ryan, I just the speed at which he's making horrifying decisions, and trying to imagine what it must be like for that Ryan, waking up, like you're immediately going to be committed.
Will you?
I don't even know how he's going to I don't know how he's going to explain what happened. Like I just
let me put it this way. I don't think Jason 2 really cares about.
No,
like all he cares about is I need this cloud of suspicion removed from me, and so if we get a Ryan body in there, then no one's going to care about what I'm doing. That's kind of
I guess so. But for somebody that is this, I guess this makes this Jason interesting, is for someone who is so smart. He's incredibly short-sighted about accomplishing like his goals. And one thing, I don't know if the show will ever get into this, but it seems like man, the box is still there, bro. Like, couldn't you just go find all right, kind of fuck this one up. Like go find a slightly why this one? Why is this the one that he has to double down on when he could just go? I guess he has no more ampules, right? But couldn't he just? Maybe he could produce more. I don't know, but it just seems like he's spent all this time identifying this.
Why not find a Ryan that would be a better fit for this universe?
There has to be like this version of reality, but like 0.02% off that you could slip in. That Ryan might even notice that they weren't in that reality, but he doesn't want to spend the time. I guess that's again that that's what the therapeutic moments are for. Is like he has no patience for this anymore. He built this moment up in his mind,
right?
Now he will turn it into dust to achieve some version of what he wanted, even if he hurts all the people that he supposedly wanted to be with along the way, which I imagine increasingly will include his wife and his son. I don't think they will be, kept free from his wrath as he continues to get frustrated at his situation.
I mean, there's some logic to the plan he's taking, because he could basically say this Ryan went on a bender and now is having a psychotic break and therefore is no longer a problem for him at all, and it will damage everyone in Ryan's life. It will damage this other Ryan, but like his problem is solved.
I don't know. Okay. For like the next 30 seconds, because the cop character in this show is really doesn't seem to be buying anybody's bullshit. And so I really don't think it's going to be that simple. I feel like, again, this is a short-sighted Jason where like he doesn't take into account the cameras that could catch like him.
Right.
Like it's not as though like that was part of his plan was to like be on the, no, he just didn't think about it when he was going after that version of Ryan to throw him into progressive Chicago. So I imagine similar slip-ups are going to occur here as well. They're going to contribute to some version of his undoing. But what it means to be undone now is a very open question, given what we'll get into with what happens later in the episode.
Meanwhile, on Amanda's recommendation, she and Jason 1 visit a more progressive version of Chicago. For a break from their month-long fight-or-flight state of being, Amanda claims that to choose the world, she did not think about people, but of ideas and concepts that would make a world worth experiencing. After exploring it for a while, Amanda decides to stay behind. She invites Jason 1 to do the same, to which he declines, wanting to get back to his own world. They both share a kiss before heading their separate ways, end quote. I mean, one of the things that's true about this episode is this episode of Dark Matter has the best needle drop of any episode of Dark Matter, and also the worst needle drop of any episode of Dark Matter. That needle drop being the FKA Twigs song 2 Weeks, which drops during the Jason Daniela end of storyline, and then by the end, there's a song called Queen that is amazing way to close out the episode. But yeah, I thought the needle drop was really bad. It made it feel like a CW show out of nowhere. Like it's just very strange.
Well, and I'm sorry. Like this show seems like it has a good budget. Progressive Chicago has a lot of green screens that are not necessarily the most convincing, because it's a show that when we go to the other Chicagos, like there are moments of intense visual effects, but they're brief or at least convincing. Here, it's just like they're just walking through. None of this was built. Like they're just walking through green screens in a way that I found to be a little distracting for how much time we spent there.
But Amanda finds that the version of Amanda that exists in this universe has vanished, which, by the way, I would take as a bad sign personally. Like, I would not. I'd be like, maybe somebody wanted to kill that Amanda. She
doesn't really look into it. She just takes it at face value. Like, well, she's gone.
She just vanished, and so therefore it's perfect. there is a movie called Arlington Road starring Jeff Bridges. Have you heard of this movie?
Yes.
Great movie. And the idea is Jeff Bridges in this film plays a professor of like right-wing extremism, terrorist groups, like he knows about all that stuff. And he becomes suspicious that his neighbors are actually extremist terrorists. And he looks into it, and basically what happens is there was a guy named, let's say, Joe Schmo, who died in a car accident. And then Jeff Bridges finds out his neighbor changed his name to Joe Schmo the day after that car accident. And that's really smart, because basically if you're looking for like records of Joe Schmo previous to that point in time, you're going to get the other guy, right? Mm-hmm. And then post that point in time, you're going to get the new guy. And so, yeah, kind of a similar concept where it's like, hey, this person, Amanda Lucas, disappeared. Now I take her place, and everyone just thinks I'm her. Very smart. Very smart. But yeah, I actually thought, other than the FKA Twigs song, I just didn't think it belonged in here. I thought this is actually kind of an emotional moment of like, hey, they've been through this like really huge ordeal together. She's inviting him to stay, and he's like, hey, I can't give up on my wife and family. What'd you think of this whole sequence, Patrick?
I have thought they have handled this. I guess romance is the wrong word, but this
relationship.
This relationship in this really unbelievable extreme circumstance in which no one would blame you for becoming close with the person across from you, in which becoming emotionally or even physically attracted, I don't think is a betrayal of your like marital vows when you are traveling the multiverse with no real sense of how you're going to get home.
And you might never see your wife ever again.
Yeah, I feel like there's some leeway. There's a little hall pass situation with this one. And a different version of the story, I think, allows that lapse to happen. And if you'd even call it a lapse, and then you deal with how does the character like struggle with their guilt. But like one of my favorite moments was like when they go out to dinner, blow off a little steam, they're in bed next to each other, and she asks, do you want me to leave? Like, do you want me to move to the other bed? And he says, no, but I think you need to. And
I think I need you to.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's a really great encapsulation of this understandable tension between the two of them. That is a tension that only exists because of circumstance. And I think this is like a really beautiful conclusion to that story between the two of them. And I realize it's left a little open-ended with like the ampules left behind, but my hope is that like that's the conclusion of their story. And the ampules purely exist if you thought this world was for you, and there's a reason that it's maybe not. Like, I guess go try and find another one. I'm less interested in like this was a love triangle in like not everyone's aware of the triangle necessarily,
right?
But I feel like their relationship like comes to a very natural conclusion, and I kind of love how it ends for the two of them. I thought it was really beautiful.
Agreed. So that was a satisfying ending, but the episode's not over, because at the end of the episode, what happens is Jason 1 starts using his ampules in more attempts to return to his world, which he does using his last ampule. Before confronting Jason 2, Jason 1 visits a store to buy self-protection gear. After he leaves, a near-identical Jason enters the store, end quote. So there's all this cool stuff about Jason 1, like writing in the journal the first time he met his wife, and like all that reminiscing, and very cool. And then I actually really appreciate that there's this visual dynamic of, that the concrete box has been built around the actual correct Jason 1 world. And so like if he makes it to that world, he's made it home. And so he opens the door, and like instantly, there's no doubt. There's no like that's an easy way. If they didn't have the concrete box, he'd have to like go around and be like, oh, check all these places. But instead, the concrete box there, that's the right world. And that's wonderful.
Well, he finds 99.98% the right world.
Right. He finds ampule on the ground, and he goes to the vintage tap, and he sees his old friend there, and it's cool. He's like, okay, this is it. I've made it home. Then he goes home, and of course he sees other Jason with his wife and kid. But this Jason's not. He started to learn some things. He's not as stupid as he has been in the past. He realizes he needs to go prepare himself. Now, actually, before we get to the very end, Patrick, there's a few things I want to mention about stuff that's happened until now, like in the remainder of the episode. I think this is the episode where Jason 1 also like visits another world and like stands over the Jason of that world and is like thinking about taking his place, right? And meets his son, who in that world is called Max because the idea is that like that's his first son that like then survives because of a heart transplant from someone named Holly, who we don't know who that is. And I like on the one hand, it's like I understand he hasn't seen his son in a really long time, and he's kind of trying to assure his son and so on and so forth. On the other hand, it's like he should be more careful about like maybe this son is a serial killer. Like you don't know what he's not treating traveling to the other worlds with the respect it deserves, in my opinion. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. Other thing I wanted to mention in terms of book comparisons, by the way, I made a little list of book comparisons here.
Ooh.
So there is a scene this episode when he goes to another world and he calls Daniela of that world on a cell phone, right? I think it's the same universe I'm talking about, right? So he calls Daniela on the cell phone standing outside of his house, and he has a conversation. He's like, hey, I miss you. You never know when like you don't have the chance to say that to someone, and so on. And in the book, there's a whole subplot about Jason 1 being all like haggard and wretched, and then basically needing to beg for money on the street in order to make money. And there was actually a big deal made about the fact that he and Amanda only had like $150 left, and he spent like $50 of it on a phone so he could call Amanda. He could call Daniela, and that was like a huge part of it. And then so they had to beg for more money to get more money. And I do wonder if that was a deleted subplot in the show, because when he uses the phone, it is very clearly a like a mobile burner phone, like it has a huge sticker on it. And so I do wonder, like, did they cut out this part where he had this trouble getting money, and then people were like, people don't care about how they got the money; they accept that they have money. So yeah. Also in that scene, Daniela is pregnant in the book when he's talking to her. So that's another big difference. But yeah. Anyway, also Amanda in the book leaves under different circumstances. In the book, she just, again, there's no relationship between the two of them, really. And certainly no relationship between Amanda and Jason too. So in the book, she just leaves a note after they spend a night at the motel. And that's it. So it's a much less...
What a massive improvement, it sounds like, from
improvement.
the
She just leaves a little note and is like, I can't continue on this journey that you're... Because Jason's already having like dark thoughts and stuff.
Yeah.
In the show and in the book. So yeah. But those are some of the big differences. Okay.
Interesting.
So we get to the end of the episode, right? Which is just so brilliantly done. I want to give a shout out to the woman who plays the like woman behind the counter at the Field and Glove store.
Yeah.
I believe her name is Danielle Diet, is the name of the actor. And sometimes you watch a show and there's an actor that shows up for one scene. And that's it. And you never see them again. And they crush that scene. And this is a case of it where this woman feels like she's coming out of a whole different show, by the way. Like, she's like, okay, she's like knows all the stuff about the guns, and here's the kind of gun you need. And my favorite part of the episode is when the other Jason comes in, and then she says, didn't we just have this conversation? And he says, no, this is my first time here. And then she's like, her whole mind is like reprocessing it. And then she says, yeah, okay. Like she's like buying his premise. And she's like, yeah, okay. Do you have like a twin or something? Like she's trying to make it make sense for both of them that like this is the first time. Do you have like a twin? Because maybe that is a thing that happened. And then of course you realize like, oh, it's second there are at least two Jasons in this reality, right? So yeah, what did you think of the end of the episode, Patrick?
It's definitely one of those. Well, of course. But you just had with the show has spent so much, again, kind of head faking you in having these two Jasons be like the Jasons that we have in the show, and the other Jasons that we encounter are just their brief visitations to other worlds.
Here's my question, Patrick. It sounds like you think that what happened at the end of the episode is that Jason 2 comes in and buys the weapons, right?
Yeah.
Or sorry, Jason 1, the original Jason comes in, right? And then another Jason that's not Jason 2 comes in and buys the weapon. Why do you think it wasn't Jason 2, just out of curiosity?
I just assumed that, like, again, like being able to find your exact version of the world is perhaps impossible, and like the best he can do is to get to 99.98. And if the way the box works, correct me if I'm wrong, is you are going, time still progresses. We cannot go into the past. You're just going into a parallel version of the moment in time you are currently in. And so time remains moving forward that way. It does make sense to me that like you are still an active player in the world. And so the idea that like you could go to a world where there's a side version of you, like following your footsteps, like that makes a ton of sense to me. And so it's just a really fun, of course, of like the concept playing out really late into the show that just completely upends your entire expectation of like where this, like, it felt like you were marching towards a pretty obvious idea of where like the show was going to, like the season was going to end. And now it's like, okay, I guess I throw away the cards. Like I don't actually know how this show is going to end, which is really exciting.
So your interpretation is that it's third Jason that comes in at the end.
Yes, third Jason.
Right.
It's a Jason wanting to go home creates a world where Jason went home. Like his, like you, like time travel, like parallel chasing, like you've created now a reality where you went home, but now it's a different version of you going home. And there is like prime Jason trying to go home, but this is variant Jason as a result of you trying to go home has created other Jasons also trying to go home, is sort of how I read it.
I think that's a very logical reading. I will be honest. I think it's possible to read it as Jason 2 is the one at the end. Now, I will just say that the Jason that appears at the very end of the episode has a finger splint on his finger, and that's one thing that the gun woman points out. Hey, you're dressed exactly the same, but you have a finger splint. Now, we saw Jason 2 earlier that episode, and it's very hard to see whether he has a finger splint on. I don't think he does, but it's very, very hard to see. I'll say, like, the show does not make it obvious whether or not he does have one. If he does have one, it would be very logical for him to have one because he did spend a lot of time breaking open that concrete barrier with a sledgehammer. So, I think it's very possible to interpret it as that is Jason 2 that also just happened to go into the story.
I've been viewing this as a potential. What is Kang's, the Council of Kangs?
Council of Kangs?
A Council of Jasons situation is developing.
Well, I don't think your interpretation is implausible. I'm just saying that like my first reaction was that's Jason 2. Now, again,
so you don't think there's okay? Well, you know this, so you're dancing around this and being very kind, but. So I'm interpreting it as a Jason 3 has entered the situation,
which I'm saying is very plausible. I'm saying is very plausible. I'm just telling you what my initial interpretation was, which is that's Jason 2 at the end. But you're right. It could be many Jasons. And I will say that the book version of the scene is very different in ways that I cannot talk about because it does answer that question definitively. I'll say that. So anyway, and then the idea of like Jason 3 or Jason 2 at the end, whoever he is at the end, realizing what's going on and then running outside looking for Jason 1 and then like the camera pulling back in like what looks like a drone shot where the snowy Chicago suburbs and he can't find whatever he's looking for. It's like it evokes Jason 1 trying to find his own reality in this sea of other realities, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful moment of the show that by the way, the song is Queen by Perfume Genius that plays at the end. Just an amazing song that plays. And it just sends you out being like, whoa, what's going to happen now? I thought this was an amazing, amazing ending of the show. And just the amazing moment as you as the audience member, you're like putting together the pieces of like, wait a second, what does this actually mean that this is happening right now? I loved it. Any other thoughts on episode 7 of Dark Matter before we wrap up today, Patrick?
Nope, just want to watch episode 8.
Are you going to do it tonight, or are you going to wait until...
I don't think I will have the impulse control, so I will probably watch it immediately.
All right. Well, We are at the final 2 episodes of the show. We made it. We made it to the final 2 episodes of the show. And I think it's safe to say shit gets real from this point forward. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on how this show wraps up. Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.